Hey there, and welcome to another episode of Blighty Day Fiancé, your eighth, ninth, or no, come on, one of your favorite reality recap podcasts. I'm Jack here in sunny Southern California, and with me as always is, wait a second, not with me as always, sitting in for Michelle today is my lovely wife, Lady Diana.
Oh, thank you for that beautiful introduction, my hubby. It's fun to be here. I love getting to join you on the show. I'm sorry Michelle's not here, uh, but I guess her her misfortune is our fortune to be here together, you and me.
Michelle does not like to keep things secret. There is an IBS attack going on today.
Poor thing. We're wishing her the best as she rests and recovers. And Jack is only taking how many years has it been that you've been begging me to do a podcast with you? So it only
Well, to
takes
be
this.
fair, all of our ideas were about like dealing with our own marriage and everything, which we
Oof.
thought might be
The end of our marriage?
yeah, we thought it might not be advantageous to our marriage. So, here we are now finally solo talking about other people's relationships and dare I say strained marriages.
Eek. Well, I'd like to see if any of these people make it to 11 years of marriage like we have. High five.
High five, 11 years of marriage, heading on 21 years together, which, it's amazing when you get together when you're 10.
Yep, we're still babies, everyone, of course. But yeah, these couples don't seem, well, maybe there's a couple that could make it. There were a few happy endings, shall I say, in this episode, and a few not so happy endings. So
Absolutely. I mean, is that, Diana, you've been watching these for a long time. Is that ever not the case?
of course. Well, let's see. If 50% of marriage ends in divorce, which I think is like always a statistic that's true for some reason. I don't know if that's true, but it seems like we have four couples this week, two relationship over,
Yes.
and two so far so good. So we're batting,
And one
500.
one
Is that
one
right?
teetering on the brink that we're going to get to in with John and Sprite, because I'm not quite
Oh, that wasn't one
sure.
of the happy ones, Boo.
Oh, I
No.
know. I just thought that to me was the one teetering,
Okay. A teeter
if
totter
that's fair.
relationship. Yeah, you never know. It could happen. It could happen again.
So now I think to jump into it, and hey, look, this is our first solo show together, so we're going to try and keep it tight, but hey, you know what? We might go on a couple of tangents. Diana and I have been known to do such things in our time together.
Yeah, we might talk about Michelle because we already miss her.
We
But
do. It's strange not having her here. She's the glue.
yeah, the crux of this operation. But we'll do our best to entertain and to inform, and to keep it nice for you. Keep it nice.
We might not be the super glue that is Michelle, but we are Elmer's glue.
Aw, that's so sweet and sticky.
Let's start, Diana. Now, we just have this listed on here as Charlotte because, no, I mean, sadly, I know you're laughing out of discomfort there, but sadly, this is not Charlotte and Johan anymore. This is just Charlotte. And we're seeing the aftermath, and, it looks like Johan didn't just nope out of the marriage, but noped out of the show and everything going forward. So we'll see if he pops up miraculously next week on the I don't know, is it a tell-all or a reunion? I know Sharp Entertainment is very particular about how they name these things,
Well, it is a tell-all
and it's
because
not Sharp,
a
it's
reunion, in my opinion, means you're getting back together, right? Reunion, and none of these people are friends or know each other or together, so they're not coming back for a reunion. They're coming for a tell-all to tell us all the dirt, all the gossip.
it's a little bit more catty than the American tell-alls, but I also think that that's a positive thing because I mean, granted, until they put everyone in a house together and drove them insane as they're doing on HEA right now. The tell-alls are up and down. I think it was last year they had the comedian on the tell-all for UK.
Oh, the
Yeah,
host?
the host,
I
if
don't
you
know her name,
recall.
but
I
yeah.
forgot her name. She a blonde comedian, and that was a little bit more fun. I mean, think she pushed a little harder, but I'm getting ahead of ourselves because we'll bring you all that fun next week. So, Diana, take us through the opening here with Charlotte, and kind of like where is she picking up the pieces from? I mean, look, let's just call it as we see it here, and as it was presented to us. Johan's a scammer, like
Yeah, Johan is a Sankey Panky. For all you,
legit
oh yeah, for
MVP of the Sankey Panky All Stars.
yes, and Sankey Panky, for those that don't know it, is a term we've heard on 90 Day many times. It's I think it's specifically for Dominican uh, people who scam. I don't think it's used in other cultures. Maybe it's also used in the rest of the Caribbean, but
I
it's
was going to
not.
say, as far as I'm aware, it is something that is specifically a Dominican thing. But again, as always, listeners, please let us know if this is a Caribbean wide slang phrase or not.
But so he has scammed Charlotte. So we're picking up right where we left her at the end. The producers had let her know that Johan has apparently been with some other women throughout the course of their relationship, and we find out here that
Diana,
it
was it? It was one woman, right?
women plural,
It
many.
was just two.
So I'm hearing that there were five of them as far as I counted with my math skills. I sounded like there were five, including Charlotte, that she knows about, that she's communicated with or heard
Key
from.
phrase that she knows
Yeah.
about.
So and she made it kind of like a Goldilocks locks experience. She was like, "There's one younger than me. There's one older than me. There's one bigger than me. There's one smaller than me." I feel like, okay, we're here we go, a nice sweet spot.
Yes.
So she's been, posting on social media, trying to like kind of figure out the scam, see who else he's scamming, and surprise, surprise, she found these other girls or women who have been scammed by Johan. And she explains to her mom, who she's worried is gonna, give her the "I told you so" speech, which she does because that's what moms are good at. But she also gives compassion and love. But she tells her mom, um, about these other women and that he's found these other girls, and she explains what a Sankey Panky is, and she gives kind of a list of like things that they go for women from other countries. They, eventually they treat you really nicely. They ask you for money. They tell you something might be wrong, like with somebody in their family is sick and so they need money for that. They shower you with affection. They introduce you to their family who are so grateful because you're helping them with bills and with medical problems and all of this. And
I
then
just want to jump in for a second here because, and we did see this play out. You know, if we rewind in our minds earlier in the season, we do see Johan's mother has to go to the hospital at some point and is talking about a surgery, and there's the roof that needs to be fixed that Charlotte takes care of for them. And, and we do see the whole family. The only reason I wanted to jump in is I feel like what was missing from Charlotte. And look, this is Charlotte's experience, and I'm sure she's not looking to take anything positive away from this. But in my job here, podcasting about it, I think it's important to just mention a couple of things. Like, when I've heard about this and spoken, I have famously spent a lot of time in the Dominican Republic and have a lot of Dominican friends. So I've heard about these things. Again, if you are Dominican, please come talk to me and feel free to message me. But, from what I've heard, yes, the Sankey Panky thing is something to elevate yourself financially. But, when Charlotte's saying they introduce you to their family and they're all so nice, it sounds very sinister and phony. It's not phony. I'm not going to comment on the sinister nature because that's to each their own on what they
what
want to take
part
there.
isn't phony?
What I was going, and that's what I'm getting at. Thanks for jumping ahead and not letting me finish, Diana. But what I was going to say is that the family is not generally like completely hooked up with the information as to the 21-year-old guy in the family who's working at the resort who's trying to woo, women from other countries or, wealthy women. I'm saying like when she goes to the house, the family's
Oh,
genuinely happy to meet her. That's not some sort
and
of like,
grateful for the
and
help she's provided.
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So I'm
Okay.
just saying that part, that's not like that was some like evil part where they're all like, haha, we're going to take her, but we're going to smile at her in the meantime. They don't know, we can't assume that they know what's going
Yeah,
on.
we're
Okay.
not blaming the family here, but what
No.
Johan did is
Yes. No,
dirty.
no, no. I was just making a
Okay.
distinction between that, what Charlotte was going through. Yeah, those check the Sankey Panky list. But,
Right.
I mean, each individual is their own, right? I mean, look, we saw in our last, quote, Sankey Panky relationship in the 90-day universe, it was Danielle and Johan. Um,
Another Dominican Johan?
but what I wanted to say was he was a Sankey Panky guy, but she is still close to his family. So, and just saying the family's not always in on it in that regard.
Oh yeah, part of what I've always appreciated about the Dominican culture, having been down there with you quite a bit, and
Mm-hmm.
going to weddings of friends there, and who are Dominican, is the warmth and community and the family specifically. And so I agree, like you can get into a falling out with one member, but there's such a warmth and an invitation into the family that if other things occur, they're still, yeah, I believe they're still going to be warm to you and still care about
Now,
you.
with all that being said, Johan's a complete piece of shit who was scamming Charlotte from the beginning. And I just want to say right now, Charlotte, all the love. I feel for you. This was a horrendous thing to go through, and you didn't deserve it. No one deserves this kind of
Of
stuff,
course not.
and I'm so sorry for you.
I think one of the worst parts was when she was talking about that there are these fake profiles being put up of
Oof.
her and showing photos that are obviously private of her, like in
Well,
underwear and just,
clearly stuff she sent Johan.
and then all of a sudden these fake profiles of her going up, and she's pretty certain they're him. um
Charlotte, you're on the money. Circle gets the
you believe
square.
there that it's him too, Jack?
1,000,000%.
I wonder what everyone else thinks. Like, I mean, it makes sense. Where else would it come from? Random people, or
Or just is it a friend who's pissed off at the
yeah.
I just the sad thing is with these kinds of things is like, oh, it's got to be Johan, but like, is it? Because like, I just wonder, does Johan care so little? Is that like even too much effort for him to even bother making a nasty profile about her?
Yeah, I'm assuming the producers reached out to him, right? I mean, did they not invite him back on? Like, he never had a chance to share anything about his side, except for, of course, the closing credits where they tell us a little bit about him. But um,
But the
yeah,
closing credits that just said like, Johan swears he's not a scammer. Bye gone it. We got it.
denies it, done. But like, so did he just not agree to come back on? Does UK work differently than the
I
other
don't know about
shows?
that. I will say, like, unless, I mean, as far as we've seen on the 90-day universe in the US, unless you literally commit a crime, they will have you and they will invite you on the tell all. And if things are real icy, they'll have you on one of those fantastic vertical TV screens that makes it look like you're some sort of weird robot in a futuristic Minority Report movie.
All right, percentage chance you think he shows up for the tell all, even though he
On a
hasn't been in the
screen?
last few episodes. On a screen, of
Yeah, I mean,
course.
he's not flying
No,
there.
obviously on a screen.
Um, 10, 10,
10% chance he
10%.
shows up.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, that's fair, because it really did become just about Charlotte and her misfortune of this whole relationship, and then kind of her redemption arc of, you know, I'm stronger without him and I'm going to be okay.
Well, and I want to get to this. Great, but yes, and just going off of that, the Charlotte writing the letter, which, look, I
Very
don't know.
healing.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't know if this is actually a letter she's going to send. If this was one of these like, hey, I'm going to get my feelings out and put it in a drawer, or whatever it is. This was terrific progress for Charlotte, in my opinion, because she's taking this. It's been, I think, 5 weeks. I think is what she said.
Yeah, about 5 weeks since, and that's when she goes out with her friends and kind of tells them what's going on, and then decides to write
I want to
this letter.
say that, granted, we all have smaller lives than we'd like at certain points. I was jealous of the amount of love and support Charlotte was getting from so many friends. I get love and support, but let's just say Charlotte looks like she might have a larger friend circle than I do at the moment.
Just because I'm your only friend, Jack, doesn't mean you don't have.
Michelle's my friend too.
And Dan, are you a friend too? I hope they're a friend as
Best
well.
friend Sasha, who's been mentioned, is a friend as well.
And we've maxed out the friend group
And it's smaller than
now.
Charlotte, so there you
But
go.
it's, I think, because Charlotte seems like a very giving, generous,
Yeah.
like thoughtful person. I have a feeling she's probably a pretty good friend. She doesn't seem, some people who go on these shows are completely self centered, and you kind of have to be a little bit for the show's purpose. But it seems to me like she's the kind of person who is really quite generous with her friends and caring. So it makes sense that she would have a nice friend group. And I'm glad, you have all that support around you, because it's going to make dealing with something this difficult and frustrating and heartbreaking just a little bit easier.
And I just to zero in on that letter for a second. I mean, it's just kind of going through, kind of telling Johan how he hurt her, how, she thinks of him as nothing. He's never going to know true love and all of this. And like, if that gets sent to Johan, is he going to read it? Does it mean anything? Doesn't matter. It means something to Charlotte, and it's important for Charlotte to get all of that off of her
Yeah.
chest.
It wasn't for him, it was for her. So definitely. Uh,
And, it's funny because, and you tell me, do I have to take Charlotte less seriously with this last line I'm going to quote, or here, because hey, I'll say the line and then then I'll ask you. So as she's wrapping up with her segment there with the producer and how it didn't work, she says, I might try Jamaica next. And the producer says, please
please,
don't.
please don't. Oh
So
no.
my question, Diana, was just to wrap up Charlotte's story here. Was that like just sort of like a this went tits up and this sucks joke? Maybe I'll try a different island, or is she like, yeah, no, I'm serious. I'm gonna book a flight for Kingston and see what goes on.
There's always a little bit of truth behind every joke. I mean, I think she was joking and trying to kind of play and
Okay,
uh,
to come back to a percentage question, Diana, what's the percentage chance Charlotte's on UK season 4 with a Jamaican friend?
ooh, I think it's fairly high. I think the percentage chance that when she gets on the tell all, she is in a relationship with somebody from an island. Maybe not Jamaica, maybe not Dominican Republic, but from somewhere abroad, and the man is younger. That's my prediction. Younger man
And
from
just as
an island
so,
abroad.
I said 10% on Johan on the finale, the tell all reunion. Percentage on Charlotte with a different man next season.
80%.
Woof.
Oh, on next season?
Yeah,
I don't
next
know that.
season.
Okay. 60%.
Okay.
But on the tell all telling us about her relationship, 85% for sure.
Fantastic. And if that's the case, I hope Charlotte has found all the love.
Yes, we wish you nothing but the best. In the words of Sean Robinson, we wish you all the best.
Oh, thank God she's not a UK reunion host.
Oh God, no. No,
We're going to
terrible.
have to leave it here. And I'm so sorry that your lives are over, but we got to talk to this other couple. Anyway,
Moving on to a happier
listen, listen,
situation.
listen, 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 listen. Okay.
Okay.
I love you, Diana. Te
Ew.
amo,
Oh my gosh,
pollo.
how many people also have this song constantly being sung to you by the person you watch this show with? Like literally everything can now be sung as I love you chicken.
I blame a friend of the show, Jake Anthony,
Yeah,
because
for
Reality
sure.
Gaze has said I love you chicken to the point that it is coming out of my cerebellum.
And now we get to have it filtered down, so thank you. But all is good in the chicken household. They're clucking away, having a
This is
grand old
I'm
time.
not I'm not painting with a little detail brush here. Let's paint with a broad brush here, okay? This was a garbage fucking storyline that did not deserve to be on the show this season. I get it. I get it. The people love Jose and the chicken song and everything, but what were they on? 2 episodes?
Yeah, they had a combined total of like 16 minutes of show this whole season.
If that.
If that.
If
That's
that.
actually generous. Yeah, this was like a highlights reel of their life.
They should send the U.S. 90-day producers should go rescue Jesse, her son, Louisa's son,
Love him.
and let him have, if he wants to go on like a single life type show, let him come hang out here for a while. Put him in L.A. And I want like freedom and justice for Jesse because
Yes.
this was so. I'm sorry, this is like, and we'll get into all of it, but there's not much going on here, the stuff that this man has to go through with his mother and stepfather.
He looked so cute at their vow renewal, and I don't know. He was sitting. They kept showing him sitting next to another young lady,
Very
who
attractive
they
young
kind of were
lady.
like almost elbow to elbow, and like you could tell they weren't sitting quite together, but enough together that it made me wonder, like, is she a girlfriend? Like, what's the deal? Because they're a very attractive
Nothing would
couple.
make me happier than Jesse having a relationship where he can get the F out of that house. And I only say that, look,
And stop
Jesse,
raising his little brother.
yeah, Jesse loves his mother. Jesse doesn't seem to hate Jose, which tells me Jesse is a fantastic guy and, cares about his mom's happiness. Like, I mean, sadly above his own, perhaps, but,
Aw.
Jesse's going to carve out his life, I think. And yeah, and Jesse's hair was my 5-star part of their segment. Jesse's hair looked
Pulled
fantastic.
back like that, very
Oof,
handsome, very chic. I liked it too. He looked
very,
really
very
nice.
cool.
But speaking of looks, even though I know we don't talk too much about looks, but they were, we see Louise and Jose in their own separate shots
Hmm.
shopping for their vow renewal outfits. What did you think of Jose's look, Jack? Is that something? I mean, it's sort of like almost identical to what you wore to our wedding, isn't it?
Now I wish I had something for the video here to like put something on, but I actually wear glasses, so I don't have anything like real fun to do here. But these furry glasses look like they smell like mildew. It looks like maybe like a rat sunglasses or something, or
Hairs.
mop
Was he wearing
sunglasses.
sunglasses in this?
Yeah, he was walking on the street with these like
Oh, okay. I wasn't even paying.
shaggy, like hairy white
I was
sunglasses.
just wondering how he got the
Get at
top
me if
hat.
I'm wrong. That's
Yeah,
what I
I
saw.
did not see glasses, but I was just talking about his actual vow renewal look. The top hat, the cane, or
Of course. No,
the cane
I was getting to
microphone.
that. We also had the top hat.
Which how does that? I don't understand. Like, did he pin it in?
Yes, come on. Come on, come on, come on. Now look, everyone, I just got a haircut today, but my hair can get to not Jose level,
I mean, we've
okay?
never tried.
I've never tried, but I don't know that it would ever be quite like that, but that's got to be like a bobby pin or an old like kind of like hat pin or something like that. I mean, my man has like a tremendous amount of hair.
Tremendous. Well, we saw there was a meme on Instagram, I think, that we saw where a guy had an afro and they shaved a top hat into the fro, like it was actually his hair, and they shaved the
I
shape
think
of a
this was a
top hat.
1980s class photo in an American
It's
high school yearbook.
I mean, it basically was very similar looking to Jose with a top hat on top of the
Just
fro.
picture the top hat made of hair, and then it would have been like straight comparison. What did you think of this? Because they obviously already had a wedding, but it wasn't, it wasn't with everyone who Louise wanted to have there and, kind of like have that whole thing. I mean, it seemed nice,
Yeah,
right?
I
I
feel
mean,
it's
everyone seemed happy. Oh, also, let's beautiful baby. The baby's looking great.
he's so cute.
Adorable
That baby's
baby.
so cute. And he was smiling and looking up at her as she was talking about getting the vow renewal. I feel like it's sort of a little redemption for her. Everyone was very judgmental,
Yeah.
and, very negative about her. I mean, they showed she only knew him for what, or was with him in person for like 7 days before they got married. Something really, it was a really quick
Hmm.
engagement, marriage, and then right into a baby. So it has all the makings to fall apart very, very quickly. And I feel like everyone in her life was kind of sending her that message of like, good luck, this is not going to happen. And so for her to have had the baby's what, like almost a year old, and they're together and they're happy. This was a really good moment for her to be able to like be like, look, family, friends, like we did it and we're here and we're happy and we want to celebrate in front of you and with you, and we want to feel that love and support that we maybe didn't get when we had to do it rushed and it was, not in this country. So I'm really happy for them that they had the opportunity to do
And
that.
let's not shrink away from the fact that in this somewhat not twin flame season, in this star-crossed season, I feel like it actually, look, I'm making fun of the fact that they had kind of like a fluff 2-episode arc, but it was actually needed because you just pointed out like it was nice and like with a lot of the storylines this year going kind of south or sideways, or someone turning into like a creepy asshole, or just proving, hey, I was a creepy asshole from the start, Tony. That all of that, I think like it is nice to have this little, also this little nice picture, but also I think it was sort of important for the UK franchise to have some sort of through line of people who are, winners, quote unquote, in the relationship lottery and moving forward, because we don't quite have that yet in this UK universe.
Yeah, look, we as viewers love to be assholes and critics, and we love to watch the fall of a shitty relationship. Like it's a guilty pleasure, right? Like we like to see that, even though it's painful and you would never want it for anyone you know. But when you're watching it on TV, you tend to be more critical and kind of judgy. So, yes, we do enjoy seeing all of the drama and, that kind of thing. But we also, I mean, do appreciate the real love that does show up here. And when it feels like there's genuine emotion and care and feeling, it is nice. It gives you like the warm and fuzzies. And I think a balance of that is realistic and necessary. So I'm really happy we saw it. I loved Louise's dress. It was like her 20s
Oh, she looked
inspired
lovely.
with the beads and the, chiffon. Like it was really classy. And I thought she looked beautiful in that. So I was really happy. Um, oh,
Jose looking unabashedly himself, and I mean that as a compliment. This guy has such a high self image, and I don't mean that in a mean way.
no,
He's so
he knows who he
comfortable.
is.
He's comfortable in his own skin, and I don't care like if this is a bit of an act or whatever. This is Jose,
Yeah, it's a shtick. It's a good shtick. It works for him.
and I think that I do think he has some sort of star potential, because while I like to make fun of him and I think he's silly, there's some sort of like undeniable showmanship that I see.
And the editors were having a lot of fun because did you notice in the when before they get married, Jose is practicing his vows, in English, obviously practicing in front of like the little makeup mirror
Hmm.
and talking to it. And then you look to the side and you see, in the mirror, they put like the montage of their relationship. So thank you, editors, for having a little fun, like really trying to, make this like a momentous occasion. And we see you. We appreciate you in there.
And I hope we see them. You never know who's going to show up on the reunion. So I hope we get to see them next week
I think they'll be at this one because the last one they were only on briefly on
on
camera.
video,
So I
because
think
I
they'll be
think
at
she
this
was
one.
very pregnant at that
Yeah.
time, or had just given birth, possibly.
Yeah. So congratulations again. We're happy for you. We hope things are still going well. We're excited to see where the family is when we hopefully see you at the tell all.
Now, moving on, I want to say that this couple is it's really funny, because I think a lot of we've talked about this on other episodes, that I think a lot of this story is massaged, and I think some of it's reshot, but still my favorite couple from the season personally, and that is going to be
John and Sprite.
yes, yes, yes. Now we do start with we found it funny. I don't know, it's just the way they showed it in the beginning, with kind of like the relationship kind of like in the crosshairs here and trying to figure out what's happening. We get a really kind of funny picture of John and Sprite. It looks like it's like the one picture left on the wall, which I don't think it was. I think it's how they shot it.
It looks like they've been together. This looks like 1997. Like I feel like they have not been together that long for them to look like they're in 1997. Was this like an era specific shot? It was like when you go to like do the old West photos, and everyone dresses up in like 1800s clothes, but this time they decided to dress up in like
1992.
mid 90s clothes. Like, oh, I'm gonna do the black turtleneck and
Well,
glasses.
it's not exactly, but it's almost black and white. The color saturation's very low. It's John with his right arm standing behind Sprite, who's sitting on a chair, Mario Lopez style, AC Slater
AC
style.
Slater.
And he's got the his right arm coming down around Sprite's chest. And then he has his left arm kind of like up, like under, like where it's next to his face, but his fist should be going under his chin. It's sort of, to quote Michelle here, because she did see this part of the show, she did tell us that this looked like a Steve Jobs a
Yes.
portrait of John. He's wearing a black turtleneck. Sprite is wearing what looks to be some sort of like American Bandstand crew neck sweatshirt of some sort.
With the collared shirt underneath, and their both of their glasses are like definitely like 1994 glasses, which I guess has been back in and we're that old, but it's still
Go fuck yourself.
I mean, if you're old, I'm pretty old too. So, but yeah,
I know that it hit you a lot with that you're turning 30 later this month, but
29 forever.
hey now. So moving on, so we have that funny picture, but I feel like this is the framing for John and Sprite. I feel like all the framing's kind of funny because again, I think they're fine. I think we're gonna find that they're together and happy.
You think they're back together?
Yeah.
We end and they're
well,
not.
don't jump ahead.
Oh, a spoiler alert if you didn't watch the actual
spoiler
episode.
alert. Okay, John's upset about arguing with Sprite last night, which is what we saw last week. Sprite stayed at a hotel.
Because Sprite was calling him fat.
And when Sprite stayed at a hotel and comes back from the hotel, he definitely had the look of a man who just stepped out of a production van with an empty suitcase and pretended to come home after pretending to not stay home the night before.
Yeah, what is it about all of their scenes? It really does feel like a reenactment tour. Like I feel like it's not like it didn't actually happen.
It looks scripted. The way they're speaking to each other, the way like if do you really think that if Sprite was like, "Hey John, I'd love to marry you, but you need to lose 40 pounds for that to happen." Do you really think John would just be like, "Oh, okay, Sprite. Wow, I didn't know you felt that way." Like
Yeah.
who's not like, "Fuck are you talking about?"
Right. It feels like this happened like a year ago and now they're like doing the whole thing over for the cameras.
Hey, you guys are together and everything's fine. Can we talk about and pretend your relationship sucks and then have a happy ending?
Right. But suspending the disbelief for a minute, moving forward in it, you see, so Sprite came back and John feels really bad, that they were fighting, and so does Sprite. And so they're like, okay, they're good, we're fine now, whatever. We've had time to cool off. And then you see Sprite just like asking for things, but not asking, kind of demanding, like, I want miso soup. And then it's like, I want this. I want that.
I want 3 eggs.
I want 3 eggs now. And like, give me this now. Hurry up, John. And John's saying like, okay, like I gonna do it. Like I'm trying. I can't do everything for you. Like it's really very
Well, and then John says he feels like he's being ordered around. My question, Diana, to you is, was Sprite making requests that were coming out in the way he speaks as orders, or were they orders?
They sounded like orders, and I realized I totally jumped ahead that was the second fight. I was thinking I forgot their makeup part first.
Oh, well, yeah. Okay.
Like
okay.
I was just jumping to them fighting again, but that's actually after the proposal, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Sorry,
it is,
y'all.
it is.
Sorry, y'all. So but to start off, they're back. They're
But
feeling
but
good.
just to give Diana a break here, this is kind of all about cooking and arguing and then kind of
back and
refusing to
forth.
cook and then being okay with cooking and then making up.
Thank
So
you. I
it's all
appreciate
sort of like a bouillabaisse, if you will, a little food analogy.
Oh, kudos for that. Kadoos.
But take a
Okay,
rewind
so
there.
anyway,
yeah.
John, they come back together after Sprite comes home from his night at the hotel. So John is, I think, most upset with Sprite because John feels like he's a project. He says, I'm like a project to you. I won't want to feel like a project in terms of his weight and his looks and him talking on the phone and not having anything to say. Like Sprite is constantly talking about things that John needs to change, and it's making John feel like a project. And I feel like that's something that a lot of people in a relationship have experienced, thinking that somebody is telling them what to do or trying to change them into something that they're not.
What do you think, Diana, that Sprite likes about John? Because we hear a lot of like stuff that John needs to change, whether it's wood printed word art in sculpture form, or weight, or the way he talks on the phone, or the way he speaks to Sprite in general. What does he like about
I don't
John?
know, maybe Sprite's love language is just complaining. And so, like, this is how he tells you he loves you. He tells you all the things that he doesn't like about you. And that's really how he shows his love. Because I don't know, is it a physical thing? Does John do something we don't know about behind the scenes? Like, what am I missing here?
Look, and this is no shade to John. Like, I feel like to a large extent, John, it's what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
I mean,
But I think a lot of us were offended by Sprite talking about John's weight.
how
And we've,
could you not
right.
be
It's
offended?
obviously right. Like it's very offensive in our culture, in the Western culture. Weight is like a big issue, obviously, and it's different. So we've heard kind of the dynamic and the differences that part of it's cultural, part of it's Sprite, whatever it is. But Sprite does kind of walk it back here and let us know and let John know like that it's really more about his health and it's not really about his weight. It's that he wants him to be healthy. And I don't know if I buy it completely, but at least he's kind of
No, but
reflected.
he didn't walk it back in like a bullshit way, and he seemed genuine when he was saying it. Kind
Yeah,
of like, and look, maybe he realized like, geez, I'm like going in really hard on my partner's weight. Like, what am I doing? And again, we've talked about this. I don't know how massaged this storyline is. We've talked about trying to keep the suspension of disbelief. And pardon me, audience, if I said this already, but it's just like a lot of this does feel like unsolved mystery reenactments like scenes of a relationship.
basically. But in other words, like although Sprite is saying that it's about health, my favorite part is that kind of opens the door for John to be like, but actually I do kind of want to lose some weight because none of my clothes fit me and I'm not comfortable
And I can't
and
find new clothes.
and so maybe I do want to go to the gym. But had Sprite not kind of come back and been softer about that it's more about health, it might not have made John feel comfortable enough to share that in fact he does feel uncomfortable in the weight he's in right now and he does want to do something about it.
Yes, perhaps it's in the delivery, Sprite.
Well, a lot of their arguments do come down to the delivery, and we're going to see that later on in the scenes after the engagement. But um, despite this argument, they found a way to resolve it. And just like Sprite says, they are like fire and petrol. They come together and it's an explosion. But regardless of that, John is very excited because he tells us, the viewers, to the camera, that he is going to propose to
By
Sprite.
putting the ring in a fresh homemade cake, correct?
Well, we see that in fact John does not bake the cake himself, but he does come up with this master proposal plan, Jack. And as a man who has had a wonderful proposal that maybe one day the viewers will be lucky enough to hear about,
Listeners and viewers.
listeners and viewers, those of you watching, you can hear all about my engagement story if you'd like. But he comes up with his master plan. What do you think of this master plan that John comes up with?
The master plan of the fried food delicacies and mashing ring boxes into food.
Well, how about the spa part? Like A plus on that
Fair.
one. Nobody
That's
ever cries from getting a spa day.
Well, actually, sometimes you do cry at a spa, but it's for a good reason.
That's true.
Um, I think that that's an interesting point because so John does a good move there. He's sending Sprite to a Thai massage, which we do get a little sidebar from Sprite in regards to that with, how kind of great it was to speak to someone who speaks his language and to, have that. And it also seemed like maybe Sprite might be kind of opening up to the fact of like, oh, it's a multicultural place here. Maybe there is a place here that I can feel comfortable, because that has been another part of their issue is this country mouse, city mouse thing with Sprite coming from Bangkok and John living in quote the middle of nowhere in England, and what does that look like? Like, we didn't really get an answer for that. And I'm sure that's, either going to be next season on or on the tell all. We'll find out what that means because I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but we do have a little ending to their story here that is a bit precarious,
Yeah,
can I
a
say?
Thai massage, if I can get that in the town, then I mean, I'm feeling a bit better, not gonna lie. And having someone I can maybe speak to in, my own language would probably make me feel more at home.
So while the spa treatment is going on, we have John getting the meal prepared, pulling his best Cafe Tropical from Schitt's Creek with their array of frozen foods. John went to, according to Michelle, he went to the frozen food chain Iceland in the UK. And looks like that's where he got his what is it, shrimp and calamari.
Calamari, yeah, UK based. Do you go to Iceland? And if you do, what do you get there? Tell us what it's like. I don't know that we have a frozen market all devoted to
As we're
frozen foods.
two Americans on today's show who have not been to the UK in over 15 years.
Jack, we're
Yes.
not Americans, we're New Yorkers.
Oh, excuse me. We're international citizens.
Sorry to interrupt. I just had to remind you of that.
Whenever you say and remind everyone we're from New York, it suddenly feels like the whole thing has to shift to like, and anyway, today we're speaking about John and Sprite.
Yeah, so John's preparing a lovely meal to show Sprite what it's like to have a private chef.
Oh, and if a Michelin rated chef too, right? I mean, that's what this looks like. So now, look, I'm giving John shit for the frozen seafood there. And to be fair, he didn't just have
Frozen calamari
well, I
and
was actually going to say he didn't just have sweet chili paste. He also had sweet chili mayonnaise. So we're really
mm,
ODing on the sweet chili. Um, but he did put together a lovely steak. Oddly, Michelle pointed out he called it a fillet, not a fillet, as
hmm.
is the more common pronunciation over there. But
Maybe he
this,
went to culinary school here.
oh, he definitely did. Probably a top school, right? But I do think the steak looked great, and Sprite seemed really happy. You did make note of that Sprite's voice seemed to be elevating with
Well, he
each
walks in.
question.
He walks into this, the fairy lights are up and the table
And
is
the
set
fairy
with fine
lights
china.
are just because, like, I just like to make this very clear. This is sort of like the fairy lights that look like some sort of serial killer collage board connecting picture to picture, light to light. It's, hey, look, maybe that's John's love language is awkward art around the home.
Decorations. But Sprite walks in and is like, "Oh, oh wow, okay, lovely." His voice just seems to get higher and higher with everything he says.
Let me ask you though, and that was funny that his voice is going up, and that usually indicates some sort of half truth. But
What do you mean?
what are you talking about?
No,
But do you think that Sprite was doing that because he really did appreciate the gesture?
he loved it.
He loved
I
it.
know he loved it. It's wonderful. No, or maybe that's just his acting. I don't know, but I think he is somewhat impressed that John did something like this and put something together. And he don't hear a lot of criticism, so
Now let me
there's
ask you
that.
this, Diana. Now, granted, I've never put a ring in food or anything because it feels like, I don't know, cut stone and lots of divots. Feels like lots of places for chocolate or food to sit
Or like
forever.
somebody accidentally swallows it because
Oh, that's
it's
always
in their food or drink.
terrific.
That scares me a little bit.
So I get that, but let me ask you something. Have you ever seen a proposal in which someone takes a ring box and just shoves it into the bottom of a cake?
I have not. No, I have not.
It was
But
violent.
I mean, I got it because then he was like, "No, Sprite, I want you to cut the cake." And then when Sprite tries to cut the cake, lo and behold, he can't because there's something in the way. And that's like the cute little moment where he's like, "Oh, look, it's a ring box." And, John gets down and proposes, and Sprite says yes. And they live happily ever after until
Wah,
2 weeks
wah.
later.
So we get the 2 weeks, it's a couple weeks since the engagement. And surprise, surprise, they're arguing. I mean, that's a
Already.
shocker. Sprite's ordering John around like a servant. Now that is being taken. I didn't know. I don't necessarily agree with that. I might in a second, but that's being taken directly from the show here. It's Sprite demanding. Was it just eggs or did he?
And at first it's I want give me miso soup,
Okay.
and then it's I want my eggs now. Like just it's less about what he wants and more about how he's communicating what he wants. And that
Well, within the communication, when he kind of is like, it's not. It's he compares John to his mother,
well, my
which
mom doesn't get offended the
what
way I tell ask for
Sprite.
things.
What does that have to do with anything? What a weird
Well,
comment.
and the fact that he doesn't hear it leads me to believe one of two things. One, he could just be very demanding and this is how he is. But I do wonder some of it is English isn't his first language
Yes.
and he comes from a different culture. So with those two things, like, the
Colloquialism.
the colloquialisms, the differences in how we speak to each other and the communication styles and patterns. Whereas, John wants him to say, like, would you please, or I'd really appreciate it if you'd make me 3 eggs. Instead, Sprite's communication style is very curt and very short and very much like, I want this now. A little Veruca Salt, actually. But
I
I
want it
I'm
now.
I'm always wondering how much of it is the culture and the language, and then how much of it is just he's kind of a demanding little bitch. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know where one ends and the other begins,
Well,
but I do know
yeah,
that their communication styles do not go together at all.
I don't know that they have communication styles so much as ways they already communicate. If that
Yeah,
makes, you know
that's
what I
fair.
mean? It's like I don't see a lot of like movement in the communication. I feel like the whole season has been like, I don't think he understands this. I don't think he understands this. Okay, so are you guys going to come together? Not really.
So, 2 weeks after this beautiful proposal where they're so happy, they have this fight in the kitchen, and Sprite throws his engagement ring at John and walks away almost as dramatically as he did when he ran to the bed a few episodes ago after a fight. And then they both tell us, like, nope, it's over. We're done. We don't like the other one.
Now, just curious, what do you think the odds are here that these two are together? At least by now, keep in mind that Tell All's probably recorded a little while ago. So, do you think they show up together in person at the London based Tell All?
No, I think that they have, since the end of the show, have tried to get back together one or two more times, but it hasn't worked again because that's their pattern. And then they're not going to be together at the tell all and they're going to be fighting. Or if they are together, they're just about done.
Is Sprite a person who, loving big cities, might take that trip to London, like even if they're not
Oh, to
together?
be in person, not to be on a screen.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he's been there already, so I don't see why they wouldn't be able to fly him there. I I mean, it's much more fun if you can go
Granted,
in
we have
person.
heard that, some of the budgetary things are a little bit more restrictive on the UK
That's
version.
true. They don't get paid the same. It's not the same
But
situation as the Americans.
I feel like Sprite in this story would like to be there to represent
Oh yeah,
himself.
Sprite's a star. Sprite is not missing out on being
I
the
think I said
center.
this earlier, but just to hammer it home, in a lot of ways, even though I, have talked about that I think some of this is massaged and all of that, they were kind of my favorite couple to watch this season on this
So
show.
entertaining, so much fun. I
I
agree.
I feel like in a weird way, I feel like I could have like a good hang with each of them. Maybe not together, but separately.
A little awkward together, probably. But shall we move on to the final couple of the season? A very short and sweet way to end.
Yes, and listeners and viewers, this was very intentional that we're ending this
We
cavalcade
want
of
a happily ever
nonsense.
after,
Yes.
okay?
And of course, that means we're going to round this up this week with Nicole and Taher. Taher, we see already last week. He's comfortable. He's made the move to the UK. And they're
Loves
having
the dog, which was a big
loves Penny
relief.
the dachshund, who's adorable. And, let's give Taher some credit there because it seemed like he was not necessarily comfortable with dogs or hadn't spent a lot of time with them and loves that Penny. And this leads to a beautiful party this week that for Taher to meet Nicole's family. We meet her dad, who I think we met once before. He looks like a
Yeah, he was
real
so welcoming for Tahir when Tahir came. He invited him in, so warm, so inviting, and he's just the same at this party. I love him. I want to meet this guy. I want to know more about his background. Like, is he a musician? Like, what is his deal? He seems awesome.
and pardon the pronunciation here, he's wearing a jalabaya, traditional Egyptian outfit. And he gives a really touching speech. He, tells Tahir he looks at him like a son. Tahir starts getting a little misty eyed. And then the real thing is he tells him, if your father was here, he would be so honored and proud of you. And that kind of really makes Tahir break down in the most beautiful of ways. And he gives her dad a hug. And you can just see in this 90-day landscape where we have a lot of xenophobia and nasty stuff going on, to see this beautiful, like,
Open arms,
yes.
welcoming, like just loving this person coming in and just happy for their children and
And as they both make, and Nicole makes the announcement that they are
a
expecting a
little
little baby,
baby.
and everyone is thrilled and excited and happy, and it's just hugs all around. And look, I think it seems like they've made it through some tough stuff, on their way to happiness. But I think in a lot of ways, and maybe it's why we didn't see a tremendous amount of them this season, in a lot of ways, they are like the happily ever after couple right now, from this season. At the moment,
I was gonna say,
of
Jack, you're
course,
such a
I know we always, they're gonna stab us in the heart and back at some point, but maybe these two will be the saving
Jack is,
grace.
if you hadn't noticed, the romantic of our relationship, and I'm the realist going, well, they're about to have a baby and they do not have things figured out with how they want to raise that baby, the religion, where, the location, all of these things that we heard them talking about with a theoretical baby. I don't know that any of that ever got worked out. So it might be okay for a while, and I really do hope it is, but I also think about those are really big decisions and they're very value based. And if they have extremely different values, I can just see as this child gets older a lot of conflicting parenting ideas. And I just hope that they can find a way to come together and make it work and have their happily ever after.
Absolutely, and I think. Look, I hope this doesn't turn into like a back and forth, unhappy situation. But I mean, I would hope, they both love each other. They're bringing a child into the world, so perhaps there will be a meeting of the minds of some sort. Let's keep our fingers crossed for those two. But that was really that was a nice way to kind of wrap a bow on it. Now, real fast, but as we wrap up today, any thoughts on what's going on the tell all? Any expectations for, I guess we got to call it a reunion for this one.
No, it's not a
I
reunion.
forgot how they
Didn't
build it
I
on the
say this to you
UK.
already? Reunion, coming back together. Nobody here is coming back together. It's different couples coming to tell us about what's been going on and for us to I mean, I guess the
Listeners, you can
reunion.
tell that Diana has watched far more end of season recaps. Let's say, I don't know, maybe 15 seasons of Real Housewife of New York. Um,
Maybe,
I
definitely.
have a little less experience on the reunion slash tell all, but thank you for the the what's the word of translation,
Correction.
correction. You love to correct. It's a correction. Let's
Thank
call it a
you. Thank you so
correction.
much. I'm really into the HEA tell all right now because they finally did what I like, which is showing more of the behind the scenes, like the tell all house where they're all coming together with conflict. And that's so much more fun than just like sitting on a stage, listening to them, watching them talk about things we've already seen and experienced and getting like a very brief non answer about things. So I prefer this new style, but I know that UK is not going to have gotten there yet. This is still going to be an early style tell all. So, you know, I'm hopeful that there'll be something interesting, new information, something that makes it kind of fun or that there's any relationships between couples that could make it more interesting, but it's I don't know. I don't have high hopes. I'm hopeful, but I don't count on
I
it.
didn't see who the host was, and
Yeah, last year it was
there was a
a comedian.
comedian.
I don't know
I
her
forgot
name.
her
She
name.
did a good job. I liked her as a host.
Well,
more than
in
Sean Robinson.
well, I recall that on the tell all last year for UK, this comedian was a little. She went after the people a little bit more, not in a
Yeah.
nasty way,
Like she
just
was like one of us. Like
more
she
as
was
a
like
fan.
a fan.
Which
So
is, I
she had
think, how
things to
she.
say.
I think that's how she introduced herself as well.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, I think, and no shade to Sean Robinson. I think she's done a great job over the years, but I always get like a little bit of a bugaboo with her when it hits like a kind of like apex point of what's going on between a couple of people, and she pulls out the whole like, all right, we're not going to solve anything today, so we're going to have to leave it there. And it's always like, Sean, that's boring and terrible. So I'm hoping that they might be a little bit more, they seem to have a little bit more wiggle room to try stuff on the UK version.
But overall, I thought it was a good season, a lot of highs and lows. It wasn't my favorite season, but it definitely wasn't my least favorite either. And it's always interesting to see people from different cultures. And then another step from no Americans, I find much more interesting in a lot of ways. So I've had a lot of fun this
You're
season.
saying you find things more interesting when all the Americans are removed?
I mean, I've seen a lot of Americans in my day, if you know what I mean. Being a New Yorker, we meet a lot of Americans. So just saying.
And around the world, we meet people from everywhere in New York. So, with that, we will be back again very shortly with HEA, Tell All House, Surreal House, Sober House coverage. Um, and I will say, everyone, I'm Jack, and I think I'm going to try Jamaica next.
And I'm Diana, and I'm going to go buy a cake and stick a ring in it.
That's
That's
it.
it.
We
We
love
love
you.
you.